Hi there, I'm Adeline and it is so nice to meet you. Welcome to the 58th Celebrity Synastry chart reading where we will be looking into Mile Romsaithong Apo Nattawin. For those new and returning, I take notes on a synastry chart looking at the personal planet signs aspects and birth times available house overlays. I also add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. Feel free to leave your own in the comments below. Before we start the reading, give this video a like and subscribe for more celebrity synastry chart readings. Let's get into it. Starting off with the sun, we have Mile's sun in Capricorn and Apo's sun in Pisces. Apo gets irritated with Mile and Mile brings structure to Apo's life. Mile gets frustrated with Apo and Apo helps Mile be more open-minded. Miles' sun sextile Apo's Venus. Apo boosts Miles' ego and Miles feels adored by Apo. Both have a desire for cooperation and harmony. Potentially why we have Mile bringing structure to Apo's life and then Apo trying to help Mile be more open-minded. They are trying to, cooperate with each other and sort of compromise in a way. Miles' sun sextile Apo's Jupiter. Mile energizes Apo and they are good travel companions. I probably should have looked it up. I have no idea what these two do. If they are actors or some kind of musicians. There's the traveling thing. Apo is generous with Mile and mutual respect remains after the end. They both want to make each other happy. Apo opens up new doors for Mile, so potentially Apo is the one that has a bit more of a head start. Head start, is that the right word? Helps Mile get into the industry. Apo boosts Miles' confidence with Sing Again. Apo frequently gives Mile the benefit of the doubt. He seems to be very for Mile so far. Apo's sun sextile Miles' Venus. Views on the world clash. It's not as promising as it looks. Love can easily turn into hate and they have arguments over money. Apo is selfishly ambitious. With what we have seen so far, I would have thought this would be the other way around. Just with what we see, he's the one that's opening the doors, boosting Miles' confidence. So I would have thought this would be the other way around, but we'll see more. Miles strives to keep the relationship balanced, potentially why he's trying to bring structure into Apo's life. Both hope to find what they are looking for in the other.
Now for the intermission. This video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized synastry readings on my Etsy store, both basic and detailed. The basic one is very simple to understand. It's not overwhelming at all. It's pretty good for those that are beginners to astrology, just getting the head around astrology, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed one is just like what I do on my channel, just a lot of insight and interpretation on your chart. So if you are interested in that and everything else astrology and tarot related, readings and gifts, then definitely check out my Etsy store. Links are below. I'm always releasing new things, so definitely check it out if you're interested. You can even just favorite the store just to show your support for free. Thanks for listening and let's get back to the reading.
So now it's time for moon. We have Miles' moon in Capricorn and Apo's moon in Leo. They have contrasting lifestyles and Apo does not always feel fulfilled. I'm not really surprised. He seems to be feeling conflicted here. Mile doesn't give Apo the attention he desires. I see that though. He seems to be trying to get the attention, honestly. Or at least doing things that are deserving of some kind of attention. Apo helps Mile be more optimistic. So I assume there is a lot of contrast in just how these two people are. Apo seems to be a bit more sort of free-minded, a bit more positive, and Miles seems to be a lot more serious. Miles' moon sextile Apo's Venus. Mile feels Apo will always be there for him. I'm not surprised. I would feel the same way, honestly. They care for each other in difficult emotional circumstances. That's nice. Apo brings beauty to Miles' life. I assume whatever doors he is opening for Mile is where this would be. Whether it is a career or just maybe a lifestyle. Shared social life is important and they might become too accommodating to each other. I definitely see this more on Apo's end, but we did see in the beginning they do make those compromises together. Potentially they are a bit too accommodating when it comes to those compromises. Enjoy creating a nice home environment. I have no idea if they live together or not. That is them. Miles' moon sextile Apo's Jupiter. They have good fortune and they're a popular couple. They have honest communication and likely for them to support charities together. Excessiveness could be an issue if they are wealthy, obviously, if they have that good good fortune. We literally just saw they have an intellectual understanding. Miles's moon conjunct Apo's Neptune. Mile makes Apo feel safe, and Mile is possessive of Apo. Interesting. Apo expects unconditional understanding. He seems to desire and expect a lot from Mile, which is not surprising because it seems like he does a lot for Mile. There's emotional dependency. I have to assume we saw the whole thing like they care for each other in emotional circumstances that are difficult. So maybe it just in general, when they have difficult times, they really rely on each other for that. May lose themselves in each other, and art is a shared interest. Potentially it is. I have to assume these two would be in some sort of like creative industry together. They sense and feel each other, and Mile feels that Apo cannot fulfill his needs for stability. Wow, really? I mean, potentially, if Apo is offering any sort of like, wealthy, extravagant career or lifestyle, and Mile doesn't see that as a stability, a way of being stable and secure, makes sense. They idealize each other, and Apo finds it easy to read Mile. Apo's moon trine Miles's Venus. There's mutual appreciation, and it is easy to compromise. We have been seeing that compromise seems to be strong here. There's natural affection, and they are supportive of each other during conflict. So there's a real element. They're very much there for each other when times go hard. They appreciate art together, and they're a social couple. So I assume they're quite popular and social. Apo's moon opposite Miles's Saturn. Attracted to each other because of their different views. Interesting. I mean, I have to skew this. We haven't necessarily seen a lot regarding views, but we have seen do seem to have that contrast in characters. So potentially that is why they are attracted to the other. Both have something the other needs. I mean, Apo definitely has something Mile seems to need. Mile tries to influence Apo, and they have a difficult emotional connection. I mean, you could see this as they emotionally connect when things get difficult, but hopefully we'll see a bit more. Mile sees Apo as needy and immature. Apo needs to be more independent from Mile. Yeah, he seems to be very attached to Mile. So now it's time for Mercury. Of Miles's Mercury in Sagittarius and Apo's Mercury in Aquarius. Apo doesn't understand how Mile takes things personally. Apo's interest in gossiping tires Mile. Potentially, this is going to be a bit different of an interpretation, but potentially if Apo is in this whole like creative, I'm going to assume they are in the entertainment industry of some kind, if they are popular and well known enough to be requested. So potentially if Apo is already in this industry and brings Mile into this, potentially the nature of the industry, obviously that would come with gossiping and everything. Potentially that whole thing does tire Mile out. So maybe it not only is Apo, but sort of the whole industry he brought him into, he's not a fan of. They have common ground, and they share positive and outgoing communication. The Mercuries are sextile to each other, so they enjoy conversations together, and they are interested in similar subjects. They have interesting conversations, and they have complementary thinking. I see this. One seems to be a lot more optimistic, the other one more pessimistic. Misunderstandings are unlikely. Miles's Mercury sextile Apo's Mars. Apo encourages Mile to put his thoughts into action, so Apo definitely seems to be the one that really, I guess, mentors Mile. Is that the right word? Like a mentor to Mile. Healthy competitiveness, and they work well together. Apo can take things too personally, so they both seem to have an issue of taking things a bit personally. They inspire each other to improve themselves. Apo's Mercury sextile Miles's Mars, so this is a repeated aspect, just inverted, so everything just before is further emphasized, but also Mile encourages Apo to put his thoughts into action, and Mile can take things too personally. Apo's Mercury square Miles's Pluto. They frequent intellectual arguments, and they both may hold onto issues for too long. I kind of see this. If they both take things too personally, makes sense. It naturally happens that way. Apo may be overwhelmed by this dynamic. He does seem to be very invested in Mile. Apo wants to understand Mile deeply, and Apo feels controlled by Mile. In a way, he kind of is, even though he seems to have an upper hand on Mile in specific ways. Mile seems to have more of a sort of unconscious control over Apo, if that makes sense. Like, if Apo feels very drawn to be invested into him, Mile wants to know Apo's secrets, and Mile tries to control Apo's thoughts. Yikes. So now it's time for Venus. We have Miles's Venus in Sagittarius and Apo's Venus in Pisces. They look for the best in each other and they share restless qualities. I can see that. Like, I think we clearly see that a bit more with Apo because he's a bit more optimistic and seems to be more energetic and like freedom thinking. But Mile, you could see that, you know, he is a bit more serious, but he does seem to be, we could also see him as being a bit more sort of like career oriented if he is taking the help from Apo. Mile gets impatient with Apo and Mile wants Apo to toughen up. Oh, yikes. They appreciate what the other has to offer. Miles is Venus, square Apo's Saturn. Mile is critical and demanding of Apo. What on earth? That's not very nice. I wonder, I probably should have looked more into these two. Is there potential for Apo being some kind of manager of Mile? Because I kind of get that sort of dynamic. Like, Mile eventually withholds affection from Apo. Mile sees Apo as unsympathetic, potentially why he would withhold affection, maybe. And throughout this whole reading, Apo definitely seems to be very attached to Mile, so potentially that is kind of pushing Mile away. Apo sees Mile as childish and undisciplined. In a way, you could read this as Apo wanting to help Mile because he feels, you know, maybe his energy is a bit too all over the place and needs to be more controlled, if that makes sense. And that sort of control of his energy would bring him success. Criticism is rooted from jealousy. Apo's Venus opposite Miles's Jupiter. It's a promising relationship. We did see that it's not as promising as it looks, which is sad. They share an optimistic life together. I mean, they do have that sort of potential, but it's just some factors make it hard. Both have a problem with promising more than they can give. Interesting. This is interesting considering Apo and, you know, opening up doors and seemingly doing a lot for Mile and being very invested into him. It would be very interesting if he just promised too much for Mile. He, you know, said he could do this and this for Mile and he didn't fulfill that. I understand why Mile is a bit more frustrated and wants to know what's going on and have a bit more control of the situation. They are generous with each other. Apo's Venus, Sextile Miles's Uranus. Mile likes to keep the relationship exciting. They share unusual interests and they're an unconventional couple. I'm very interested to see what the kind of relationship these people have, because just from what they were seeing in this reading, there does kind of seem to be a sort of like manager relationship. Like Apo seems to play that sort of manager role here. So I would be very interested, like, if they are colleagues, like, I want to see that dynamic and like know what these people are, because like it's very odd. Apo is drawn to Miles's unique qualities and Mile feels appreciated by Apo. I mean, if you're getting that much attention, yeah. Mile finds Apo charming and attractive. So it seems like from what we're gathering from this reading so far, at least what I'm interpreting or how I'm interpreting it, it seems like initially like Mile did really like Apo and found him, you know, charming and attractive and all that blah blah blah. But there does seem to be a sort of issue with, I guess, promising too much, and it seems like on Miles's end there does seem to be a bit of deterioration and, you know, coming to a way or a place where he wants to, you know, be more controlling of Apo and like wants to know his thoughts and everything. Apo is Venus, sextile Miles is Neptune. Apo is enchanted by Mile and they prefer to see each other as a fantasy. No wonder there's like some deterioration here, and the whole it's not as promising as it looks, that's not great. They are tolerant of each other and they share spiritual interests. Apo may expect too much from Mile. Yeah, they're really, I want to know if Apo is not like Miles' manager or something, I want to know what these two are, because it must be very interesting. Mile is easily charmed by Apo, so Apo seems to be very charming, in Miles' eyes anyway. So now it's time for Mars. We have Miles' Mars in Sagittarius and Apo's Mars in Aquarius. They maintain their independence. I hope so. Like, there doesn't seem to be a whole, like, I don't get codependent from these two. I don't think we have seen a whole lot of codependent elements here either. They are blunt with each other and they share humanitarian interests. We did see earlier that it is likely for them to support charities, so it makes sense that they have that sort of humanitarian element. Apo's Mars, square Mars is Pluto. Power struggles. I really see that because Apo he seems to have that sort of like manager persona here. Like he seems to, bring a lot to Mile, be very charming and everything, promising Mile a lot. But then you have Mile. He just seems to be, as an individual, a lot more headstrong and stronger. Which, both are very strong characters in their own way, which is, I assume, why they would have those power struggles. There's a brutal transformation, and external influences challenge them. Interesting. We haven't seen a whole lot of external influences besides them like being humanitarian, supporting charities together. And we did see they're a social and popular couple. Potentially the media in some way influences them. Apo's blunt nature triggers Miles's inner issues. Oh no. They dig into each other's psyche and need to deal with their own issues instead of fighting each other. Oh no. So potentially their own issues just further perpetuate the sort of issues in this relationship. I mean, obviously it would. But, but potentially in this relationship, they are particularly triggered. I mean, we did just see Miles is triggered, but Apo could be as well. So it looks like this relationship can, on some level, be triggering for both of these two and need to figure out their own issues outside of it. So that was the final aspects, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I'm actually not very happy this is a shorter reading. I mean, you can't choose how long a reading is and how many aspects one person has, or two people has. But that was what we had. That was very interesting. I'm very curious to find out what their exact relationship is. I'm very curious to find out what their relationship is and everything, because it's very interesting and, kind of wish we had more, but that's okay. If you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these readings weekly. Besides that, give this video a like and I will see you guys next time. Bye!